Hello everyone and welcome to another video. So in this video we're gonna see how to make a stack animated carousel in React Native. So basically this looks like a deck of cards placed on top of each other, and we are able to place any card in any direction and it will swipe down. So you can see I pick up this card and it will go below, and if it is like not placed above the threshold, then it will come back like this. So basically this is how it looks. Okay, so let's start from a blank project, and to not waste much time in adding the default things, I've already added a bit of boilerplate code so that we can get started from a pretty strong ground. So as you can see, I have already added this library called React Native Reanimated in our package.json, and this is the library that we'll use for handling the animations of our carousel. And just add it in your package.json file, and then go to your babel.config.js file, and here you have to add it in the plugins array. So just add this line in the plugins array. If you are confused, you can go to the documentation of React Native Reanimated. They have really good steps to how to add it in your React Native project. Okay, one last thing, I'm not going to cover everything about this library, that how it works and what all it offers. I will explain it to you, the features that we have used for this video, but there is a lot that you can do with this library, and if you want to know how it works and everything that it offers, then I've already created 2 videos for animations on my channel. You can check them out. One covers the basic of React Native animations using this library. There you will learn how everything works here, and like what features does it have. And second one is an application of this. So I've created an animated carousel, and that is very different from what we are going to create today. But I think if you watch those 2 videos, you will have a better ground for this video. But don't worry, if you don't have time, then I'll just explain everything that I'm going to use in this video. Right, so let's get started. Okay, so if you look at the app.js file, this is the entry point to our app, and here we simply have a view which has very basic styling to it. I created this to give it a background color, and inside this we have a gesture handler, and then we have our main component. So this is basic boilerplate, and if we go in our main component, which is carousel.js, this is just an empty functional component right now. It does not return anything, and here I already have a array of colors that you these are the colors that you saw at the starting of the video for the individual cards. So I have picked these colors from a website called colorhunt.co. So if you like go to this website, you can find very beautiful color palettes, and you can add those in your project very easily. Right, so let's start from here. So instead of just returning nothing here, what we'll do is we'll create another view inside this. So first of all, what we want our cards to be stacked on top of each other, right? So first of all, we need to lay out our cards, right? So what we'll do is we will loop over our array, which is called data, by the way, and we'll run a map function. Here we will get our individual item and the index of that item, and here we will return our card. So right now we don't have our individual card, so what we'll do is we'll create another component over here. You should ideally make it in another file, but I'm just gonna keep it here so that everything is in one place, and let's call it item. And inside this we simply for now we just want a box with some basic styling to it. All right, so let's do it. We'll call return, and inside this we'll just have a basic view for now, and we'll update this later. And let's give it a certain style. So I'm gonna create a style sheet, and inside the style sheet let's call it box or item, and this will have width of 200 and a height of 200 as well. And let's give it a border width so that we can differentiate the cards properly. And let's give it a border width of 0.5, and we'll give a border color of white, and let's also add a border radius so that it looks better. Oops, let's set 20 over here. Okay, this should work, and let's store it in a variable called style so that we can access it. Right, so the view that I just created over here, I will add a style to it, and here we will add styles that we just created dot box, but it doesn't work right now. I think I missed a bracket, so let me add that. Okay, this is better. Okay, yeah, we got rid of the errors, and now we don't see anything because we haven't added our card over here. So let me add this. Oops, sorry, let's add our item, and there we go. So you can see our box which is being rendered properly, but we don't want it like that. So we want it on top of each other like a deck. So let's add some more styles to it. I'll add position absolute so that they're on top of each other. Okay, so let's give this a certain style, and let's position this a bit better so that it looks good than this. Alright, so to do that, let's wrap this view with another view. And by the way, this is one thing that I like about Flutter, which is not present in React Native. If you have to wrap something with another component, then you can just go to options and it will give you an option to wrap it with another widget, but you have to do it manually in React Native. Anyway, let's continue with the styling. So the first top view, I'll give a style of height 100%, and let's create another style in the style sheet, and let's call it parent. Here I'll give a flex of 1, and I'll align items, align items to center, and let's add this style to this view. By the way, I'm just doing it so that it looks better for the video, but you can just place a widget wherever you want, of course. And add styles dot parent, and it gets in center. And now let's fix the vertical alignment. For now, I'll just be lazy and I'll add top 60% or something. Yeah, this looks better. Yeah, it will work for now. Alright, so now that we have our basic thing set up, we can finally move on to the animations part. So for now, we have our cards stack on top of each other. You can't see it right now because they are perfectly aligned, but they are on top of each other. So the next thing that we want is when we grab a card, it should actually move to our mouse pointer in this case, but if you're running on mobile, to your finger, of course. So that's the next thing we want. So to do that, what can we use, right? So you might have heard something called a pan gesture. A pan gesture is something that gives our movement of our finger. So it is directly supported in React Native. So what we'll do is we will create a gesture detector, and that gesture detector will tell us the position of our mouse when we have grabbed a card. All right, and if we know that position, then we can animate our card to stick to that position so that it will look like that we are moving our card with our mouse. Okay, so let's do that. For that, we have to import two things. So first will be gesture detector that I told you just now, and thank you for auto inputting that. I was not expecting it to do it. But the second thing we need is something called gesture. So you will see how it is used just in a second. Let me remove this. All right, so we need to attach this gesture detector to our view. Okay, not this view, this view. Okay, so again, it is a pain to wrap something with another widget, so I'll just cut it and add gesture detector, and inside this I'll paste our view again, and I'll format the document. Okay, so our view, that is a single card item, is now enabled to detect the gestures that we allow it to detect. So what we want is a pan gesture. You can go on the internet or ChatGPT and you can check all the different types of gestures that you can add for animations, but in this video we only need the pan gesture. Okay, so go to your item function, and here we'll now add some good stuff. We will use the gesture object. So do gesture dot pan, and yeah, add a bracket over here, and below this we'll have something called on change. So basically we are declaring a pan gesture and setting up its on change method. So basically whenever you do a pan gesture, if I click on it and drag in any direction, then this on change function will get triggered and give us the values that we need. So here it will return event, which is deprecated by the way, but fine for now. And here this will give, so we want two things. Since we can like slide the card in any direction, so we want two values from this, the x-axis value and the y-axis value, the displacement that we have done in both the axes, right? So this gives us exactly what we want. Here it will, the two values that we want are event dot translation x and event dot translation y. Sorry, y. Yeah, so these values are of no use to us if we can't store them, right? So first of all, let me just store this and call it pan gesture. Okay, and let's format the document once. All right, so as I said, we need to store these two values, right? But the first thing that you might guess is we should store this in a state, so that whenever this changes, we will just update the state and it will update the values over here. But we are going to use something else. So finally we are starting with the React Native Reanimated library. So it offers something called use shared value. Okay, let's see if VS Code automatically imports it or not. Use shared value. Okay, thank you, it imported it. So this is something very similar to use state, but whenever you are doing animations, or if you are updating values or anything which are to be animated via React Native Reanimated, then instead of use state, just use this use shared value. All right, let's call it offset x, because that's the x-axis value that we are gonna be moving when we start our pen gesture. Let's give it an initial value of 0, and I'll copy paste this, and similarly we have offset y, right? This will also have initial value of 0. Okay, now we need to update these values, offset x and y, with this translation x and y respectively, right? So let's do that. I will set offset x dot value. Remember to add dot value, because this is not a direct double value. It's an object which contains a dot value property, which is a number. Okay, similarly we'll do offset y dot value, and we'll set it in event dot translation x and y. So finally we have our values that we need, and now remember we added this, store this in a pan gesture. It's because we need to set it in our gesture detector that we are looking for pan gestures. So there is a gesture property here, and just add a pen gesture here, so that our gesture director knows that this is what we are looking for and what to do when this gesture is initiated. Okay, if you are getting an error on your screen, then just change this var to const. So you might get rid of it, because the pan gesture that we added, it needs to be a constant value. All right, so if we take a quick recap, we have created our pan gesture, and when we grab it, we will be getting our values in event.translation x and y respectively, and we are storing that in our offset x and y values. All right, so basically we have added a pen gesture, we are getting the values, so the next logical thing to do is reflect that on the UI. All right, so we need to add these values in the styles of this box and update it whenever the span gesture changes, right? So to do that, we will use something called use animated value. We are not going to create another style in our style sheet and just add it to our box like we have here. We are not going to do that, because we have to animate it. So whatever value you have to animate, just use things imported from React Native Reanimated. Similarly, like we use shared value instead of use state. So here we need to use something called use animated value, animated styles, my bad. Yeah, this is it, and this is a hook, so let's add it over here, use animated style, and this will contain a function which will return an object, and this will yeah, this will return an object of the styles that we want. So it from now on it's very similar to our style sheet, but just use this instead of creating a simple style sheet. Okay, so we need to have two things, right? The x offset and y offset. So if you guys remember, what particular style do we need for it, right? It's called transform, it's called translate x. This is very basic styling. It is similar in HTML, in React, and also in React Native, but the React Native syntax is a bit weird, as you can see. Right, so in translate x, what we want is offset x dot value. Okay, so let's copy this and paste it here, and we'll do the same thing for translate y. So add the y values, and yeah, let's save this. And we have another error. It says offset y does not exist. Why? Okay, there is a small and capital letter error. Let's fix that. Okay, so error is gone. Yeah, let's save this in a variable called animated styles. So next thing, we are gonna use this in we're gonna assign this to our view over here. So we already have a style, so let's create an array of styles, and as a second style I'm gonna add the animated style. I forgot a very important thing. So basically whatever view or whatever component that you're going to animate cannot be a simple view. We are going to use something called animated.view, so that the library knows that this is the thing that we need to animate. Even though we have the animated style over here, but we still need to add that. So let's do it. I will import something called animated, and just make sure that this is outside of the object that you import. So we have imported animated, and now I will do something called animated dot view, and similarly over here also. Okay, so now our library knows that this view has to be animated and not the entire thing, and hopefully this works. Okay, we are already seeing something, but I click on this and I can drag this around. You can drag everything, and it looks like a total mess right now, not what we want at all. Okay, but this is a good start. So yeah, we got our three things that we wanted. We got the value, we got the pen gesture working, and we are reflecting it on the UI. Now we just need to make it look like a carousel. Okay, so let's start with what we want to do when we swipe the card. All right, so like we have the on change method in the pan gesture, we have one more thing which is called on finalize. So basically you can tell by the name, when we release the pen gesture, that is we release our finger or the mouse, then this will get called and this will have the updated values for that case. So here what we want is, like as I showed you in the demo before, if this card is not above the threshold value, then it should come back and sit on the deck where it was. And if it is dragged above the threshold value, then we will put it in the back and the new card will pop up from behind it, right? So this function will be responsible for all of that. So basically we need to decide and make the functions for these two cases, right? So how we'll make that? So let's add a if statement, and we'll have math dot absolute. This will just remove any negative values that we have, because we can drag the card in all directions. So on x and y axis, if we drag it in the opposite direction, the value will naturally be negative. We don't want that. We'll do math dot absolute, and here we will have the same values. Let's start with x. So oops, we want translation x. Yeah, so if this value is greater than 120, so why I'm using 120, because this is the threshold that I want to set. You can depending on your use case, you can manipulate this value, but our card width and height, if you see, is 200. So I think 120 is a good point to set the threshold. Okay, let's add another condition. I'll just copy this thing and we'll add an or condition, and this will be for the y value. So either in x or y, if any of this is matched, then we know that we have exceeded the threshold value and we want to perform a swipe function, that is pop up the card below and make the card on top go to the back of the deck. So we'll do that in some time and just add a comment over here. Okay, but the main thing right now is the else statement. So if it is not above the threshold value, then we just want to make the card go back to where it was. So what I'll do is I'll set the offset x dot value is equal to 0. So this will make it go back to where it was. And instead of 0, we'll use something called withdtiming. So this is something that we import from React Native Reanimated again, and you can see there are many things like with, decay, repeat, and spring, whatever, but here we want withdtiming. All right, so just instead of just setting the value to 0, just use withdtiming here, and inside the bracket put your value. So what this will do is, instead of just snapping it to the value 0, it will gradually change the value to whatever it was at that time to 0 in animated smooth fashion. So that's what we want. We don't want to just snap it to 0 when we let go of the pan gesture, right? And let's copy this, paste it over here, and let's do the same thing for the y offset. Okay, now if I save this and let's reload so that all our stacks are in correct place. Also one more thing that I added behind the scenes, I forgot to record it. If you go down here, here you can see that like before this I had used our component like this, like a function. Don't do that, because we need to pass props later on. So just use it like a component and pass a key here so that it doesn't give the warning, because we are using a list view, a map. So just give anything unique as a key. I have just passed this color because it's unique. Anyway, so this was the change I was talking about. And now if I save this, you can see that if it is above threshold, it won't do anything because we haven't added our swipe function yet. But if it is below the threshold like this, it will go back to where it was. You can see this happening right now, and it will work in any axis because we have both x and y going on for us. And this is a good progress, right? So the last thing that we need to do is add our perform swipe function, which is if it is above the threshold, then this card that we have grabbed will go to the back, and the card that we have below this, just below this, will come up front, right? Yeah, so let's do that. I'll create a new function over here. And by the way, this function will be added in our parent, not this item component, because the same function will run over all the items, so that we want it in our parent context, right? So let's add a function. I call it perform swipe. Okay, so basically we are playing with the index of the card here, right? Because when the threshold when the card top card will go to the back, it means that the index of the first card will go down to the last, and the array will shift by one upward, so that this goes to the last and everything else comes up to the top, so that the second item is the first one and the second is the third one, and so on. So we have a very handy method to do that for us. So first of all, we will set the state of our new array, right? So we have a set data function, and inside this we will have our old value of that, which will be let's call it old data, and this will be a function, and this old data is basically the previous state, right? Previous state of value that we had. So what we'll do is we will create a new variable called last element, and here we'll do all old data dot pop. So it will we will use the very handy method I was talking about. It is called unshift. So basically what I'll do is old data dot unshift, and inside this I'll pass the last element. So this will basically add the element to the end of the array, which is exactly what we want. And in the end we will just return the old array. I don't know why I did like this. I can just return the data, but yeah. And we have some errors. Yeah, I forgot the arrow function. Now if I save this, errors are gone, and it will not work because we haven't like added this function in our on finalize method. So let's do that. And here there's one thing that I need to mention. So basically there are two kind of threads. So first is a JavaScript thread, and second is a UI thread. So what's the good thing about React Native Reanimated is that the animation and all the calculations that it performs, it works on the UI thread, not on the JavaScript thread. So what it means is that it does not block the main thread of whatever you are doing in your app just to perform animations. So it does two things. It does not block anything, and second, because it's happening on a UI thread, the animations are very efficient and very optimized, and they basically run at 60 fps. So here what we can do is we can do this perform swipe function that we created and just call it over here, but let's not do that. We're going to import something called run on JS. Okay, similarly there is run on UI, as you just saw. So whatever we call inside this run on JS method, it will be run on the JavaScript thread instead of the UI thread that React Native Reanimated runs by default, right? Why we are doing this? Because this is some serious calculation, and we do not want to block the UI thread for that. We only want to use the UI thread for displaying elements and doing animations and everything, right? We don't want the calculation part to be done on here. We'll do that on the JavaScript thread, because unshifting is it's not a very fast method. All right, so instead of directly calling it, we'll just call it in here and perform swipe. All right, so now if I save this, we have got another error. Perform swipe does not exist, and it is right, it does not exist in the context of this element. we need to pass it as a prop. So let's do that. I'll create an array. We want a few more things that we'll need later, so I'll just add those also. First is obviously the index that we want. Second, we want our function, so perform swipe. Let's add these two things for now. Now we'll pass it over here. So index, which is the index that we get from the map, and a perform swipe function. Let's save this. Errors are gone. Now if I do this, well, it kind of goes back, but you can't see it. Okay, something went wrong with my expo. Let me rebuild the app again. Yeah, okay, so I added the brackets at the wrong place. Basically you have to add it outside of the run on JS function. So this is the function and we are calling it here. So let's save this, and now if you move the card which is beyond the threshold value, and if I place it, it does not seem like it's working, but it is actually doing what we want. This function that we want is running and it is changing the state of the data, but we can't see it on the screen for some reason, and because we haven't added it in our style set, we have to add ZIndex over here. So ZIndex is basically the index in which our cards are stacked up on top of each other, right? So if we modify this value, the card's vertical index will be changed and you will see the card. You can decide basically which card is on top and which is on bottom, and we'll just pass our index that we passed to our item before from here, and let's save this. And now also you won't see exactly what is happening because all our cards look the same, and well, they don't have any differentiation between each other. So let's add a background color, and here you remember we pass the color as a key, so you can just pass another parameter called color to make it more readable, but for now I'm just gonna be lazy and add the key property over here, which is color, by the way, and it says key does not exist because we haven't passed it. Okay, my bad. Let's do something called color, and here I'll pass item again, and let's receive it here, color. All right. Okay, you can finally see that our cards are of different colors now. It's going back if it is below the threshold, and if it is above the threshold, boom, you can see it it goes back to the end of the deck, but it's not going to its default position because we are only doing this, only setting it to 0 for the non-threshold part, right? So we need to do the same thing over here also, so that it will go back on the stack and it will look like it's going to the default position. Okay, now we need to add some final touch. So basically if it is below the threshold or above the threshold, in any case we need to set it back to 0. So let's just remove the else statement, and what this will do is it will just reset it either in both the cases, right? So let's save this, and now if I go below the threshold, it will come back. Above the threshold, it goes at the back of the deck, and our stack carousel is almost complete. Now let me add some special effects so that it looks better. So there is something I will add in the styles right now, and this is something, just don't get scared of it. This is something that I calculated by doing a lot of trial and error actually. So don't get scared of it. You will get a hang of it once you understand what's happening, right? So basically I've added two more things in our transform style. The first one is scale X. So let me save this and show you how it looks. Okay, one more thing that we need to pass is the length parameter. Let's do that real quick. I'll pass something called length, and this is basically the length of the array, so the total number of contents that we have, right? So data.length, and we'll just receive it here. length. Okay, let me save this, and now you can see how it looks, right? The cards that are below this, they basically pop out, but not all the cards, because if just imagine you have a stack with like 20 or 30 items. If you pop them all out a little bit from the bottom, then it will look very weird, because it will be a very long kind of stack, which does not look good. So I have capped it to only 2 items, so that the last 2 items will be shown over here. And now if I swipe it, the first item goes back and the first 3 items are shown. So you can basically see the violet color, the yellow, and the orange color, right? So let me explain the styles that I just added. So the first one is scale X. Basically the scales the card. If I pick it up, you can see the first card, it is of full width and full height. The card that is below this, if I pick it up, you can see the width is not exactly the same. It is a little bit shrunk in size, because it gives a cool effect when it pops out the bottom. If you remove the scale X property, let me just comment this and save this, you can see that all the cards that are popping out from below are of the same width, which does not look good. It is fine if you want something like this, but I prefer if it is a bit shrunk. So let me let me uncomment that, save this, and you can see that it is shrunk a bit. So basically we are playing with the scale X property here, and this is a formula that I made, and I know it looks scary, but if you do a dry run of it, it basically works on the index part. So basically the length is the total length, like we have 6 items over here, so the length will be 6, and the index will be different for each card, right? So if you do a dry run for each index, for example the top index is 5, so if you do a dry run for that, it will be 6 minus 5 minus 1, which is 0, and this whole thing will basically come to 0, and 1 minus 0 is 0. So for the first item, that is the top item, the scale value will be 1. So because the first item we want at the full width, right? It is not shrunk at all, but we want the items below it to be shrunk a little bit. So the first is pretty simple. If we go for the second item, which is index 4, then here we'll get 6 minus 4, which is 2, 2 minus 1, 1, and if you calculate this, it should come to, I think it should come to something 0.9. Yeah, it should come to 0.9. So what this formula does is it basically gives us the values in this state. I'll just add some comments here. The first item will give the scale X property as 1, the second item will give it as 0.9, the third item will give it as 0.8, and so on, right? I'm not listing the other items because we are only concerned with the top 3 items. And you can see I've provided a method called math.max. So basically what it does is it caps it at 0.8. So if we go below this, the fourth item, which will be 0.7, if we get to that, it will cap it to 0.8, because we are getting the max value between these and 0.8. So even if you go below it, it doesn't matter, it will be the same width as 0.8. So that's why I've added the math.max parameter, so that because you only need to show the top 3 items, right? So this is the formula, and we have added withdtiming to it, so that whenever we do a swipe, it comes up in a linear smooth fashion, right? Okay. Another property is the translate y, which I've added again. This is because of the vertical offset that we want. This formula is pretty simple. It's almost the same as this, but yeah, it basically the default y value, it will based on the index, it will vary. For the first item it will be 0, the second it will be a bit low, I think 0.1 or 0.2. yeah, so that's how it works, and we are similarly capping it to the top 3 items only. All right, so with all this, I think this video has come to an end. We have got everything that we wanted. If the styles does not look very good to you, you can modify it, and if we talk about the use case for this thing, I think this kind of things can be used in e-commerce applications to display objects, or if you use Tinder or Bumble, you can see the same kind of swipe animations that we have here, the left right swipes. So yeah, you can use this in many ways. These are the two things that I can just think of the top of my head. And yeah, I think this concludes the video. And if you want to learn more about React Native Reanimated, you can watch the other two videos. You can find the link in the description. I have made different kinds of carousel in one of the video, and the other one we just talk about basic animation, everything you need to know to make animations in React Native. All right, so this is it for the video. Thank you for watching, and I'll see you in the next. Cheers.